Bill. As our Boston correspondent Bill Turpie reports, the company has already sold systems to many of Wall Street's top brokerage firms, and it has high hopes for its future in the multi-billion-dollar business.
You'll notice that on the Stratus, there are two of every elements. There are two processors, two sets of memory. The purpose of this is that if one element in the system fails, the machine continues to operate.
John Morgridge, Vice President of Marketing for Stratus Computer, likes to tell about a computer that is tolerant of failure, several failures.
The other nice feature about the machine is that you can have more than one failure, i.e. we could fail a COM board and we could fail a processor board at the same time, and the machine continues to run.
He also likes to remind us of our intolerance.
We don't like to wait, and if we're dependent on a terminal or some kind of a computer-driven device, we have just very low tolerance to its being down.
Not only are individuals less forgiving, but business is becoming more demanding of its computers, and Stratus is encouraging those demands.
We go out and we try to find people who need a system that won't fail. Either we convince them or they convince themselves that the failure would just be too costly.
Stratus is a fairly new kid on the fault-tolerant computer block. So far they're targeting special markets in the fault-tolerant area, such as reservations and financial services. But very soon they believe that the entire market served by many computer companies will be one in fault-tolerant computers.
Today we're in a situation where there's a certain class of customers who know that they need a fault-tolerant system, such as a funds transfer application or a brokerage application. There's another class of users who don't know it yet, but over time will be convinced that they ought to have a fault-tolerant system also, because it doesn't cost any more, and the downside of a failure is so great.
The fault-tolerant computer market is expected to grow to be about $28 billion in the next 10 years. Tandem is Stratus' major competitor for that market. Tandem's product is based on a software approach. Stratus takes a hardware approach.
In 1979, I looked at what had happened since Tandem started in 1974, and what was different, what could be done better. And the biggest difference was hardware had come down dramatically in cost. The cost of logic had dropped, many, many times in those 5 years.
Bill Foster has a Hewlett-Packard heritage. It's one which says if you're going to make a new contribution, make sure it's a technical contribution. And that's behind the hardware approach to fault tolerance here at Stratus.
That's something that's tossed around in HP all the time. In other words, if you're going to do something significant, you can't just copy what someone else has done. You have to really take advantage of latest technology.
Here's the critical element for Stratus, two Motorola 68,000 microprocessor chips with a program running on both sides of the board.
There are two complete sets of logic on this board. Everything is performed twice on the board and compared before it's outputted into the rest of the system. If that compare fails, the board declares itself bad.
But there's also another board doing the same thing. So if this board fails, the other one comes right in without the computer going down. And the computer knows where to get help.
We have a computer that knows when it's not working properly, and in fact it knows exactly what has failed. It turns on red lights and indicates precisely where the failure is. Most computers don't do that. Most computers, it's very complicated to figure out when there's a failure exactly what has failed. So we have the ability to service this thing in a very unique way. In fact, the computer actually dials us, places a phone call to us whenever it has a failure.
Stratus Computer service people will diagnose the failure and send out another board, which the customer can just insert in the machine as easily as this. What's to keep another Stratus-like company from putting together the same kind of hardware approach in the architecture that you have done?
The thing I've constantly reinforced to our engineers is don't assume that we have a big lead over everybody. I mean, you have to assume there's a lot of smart people out there, there's a lot of venture capital available, there's someone who's going to try to out-Stratus Stratus. Therefore, we better be moving ahead and developing our new products as quickly as possible. And really the answer